We don't have a healthcare system out there in the world. We have a sick care system. That's like the car accident happened, you call in CSI and you find out, why did that car accident happen? What we want to know is, hey, are you on the road to the car accident? Why don't you avoid that road?
Take back control of your own wellness destiny. Everyone thinks I'll do whatever I want, go to the doctor will fix me. Well, if we learned anything during COVID, the doctor just can't fix anything, right? So we need to take personal responsibility. Imagine getting a snapshot of what your thoughts and activities are right this second, and you got the power to change it. That changes everybody's trajectory to what you could be doing in your life. And it's all about you achieving your highest potential.
Welcome to the BrainFitness Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Patrick Porter. Please join us on our mission to better a billion brains. Enjoy the episode and remember to share it with your family and friends.
Welcome back, BrainTap Nation. This is Dr. Patrick Porter, your host, and today we have a very special guest. We're always looking at numbers, metrics, what's going on out there in the world, and the science continues to evolve, continues to expand. And I have a good friend, someone I've met years ago in California, and if you're watching the video, you know he should be on a surfboard out there on the ocean, catching a wave. But Jeffrey Gaal is here with us. He's a quantum practitioner. He's been working in the health wellness field for over 30 years, so he's an old timer like me. Been out there before we could call it quantum. It was
Exactly.
quantum, things of that nature. So, and he's into quantum physics. But what we're here to talk about today is the AgeCode, and it's a test that I'm taking, and I think practitioners can use it, also individuals. So we're going to have a link in the bio below. If you're driving your car, just go back to wherever you're listening to this, and there'll be a link there. You can find out what we're talking about here. I think you're going to be amazed at what they can find out about you and where the science is going. So first of all, just tell us a little bit about your background. What got you into being involved with this company, AgeCode?
Okay, well, let's go back just a little bit more. First off, I'm not a doctor. A lot of people sometimes say, oh, doctor this and that. The reality is I'm an electrical engineer from the aerospace industry, which obviously opens my mind to a lot of things. And so I realized pretty early on that engineering wasn't really where I wanted to stay. And I got into the wellness arena, and I found out this plethora of opportunity in helping people's lives. And so that really started my journey. Along the way, I got into quantum physics. I started co-developing products. I've worked with energy medicine, stem cells, exosomes. I've owned a couple of clinics long before it was called Biohacking. Remember, we were calling it holistic. Yes. Biohacking was like a new term. It's like, yes. It's not new. It's just marketing, right? But yeah, way back when we were looking at alternatives and how could you be more preventative? Don't wait for there to be the problem. And most importantly, take back control of your own wellness destiny. Everyone thinks I'll do whatever I want, go to the doctor will fix me. Well, if we learned anything during COVID, the doctor just can't fix anything, right? So we need to take personal responsibility. But there's a lot of factors. We have this innate intelligence. Our body knows how to heal and repair itself. This is a gift we all received at birth. All we got to do is create the right environment. Hence why I love BrainTap. You're creating that environment consciously, subconsciously, dealing on multiple dimensions, which is really amazing. But on the physical end, there's some things that we can do. And how I really got attracted to this about 30 months ago, I had a good friend call me. We've known each other 35 years. And he said, hey, I'm looking at something in gene and cell therapy. I think this is right up your alley. And I said, gene and cell therapy? What do you know about that? And he goes, come and check this thing out. So we looked at it, and we were looking at what was going on with CAR T cell, NK cell therapy for both longevity, immunotherapy. And the reality was there wasn't a lot of talk yet what they're doing with all these cells. It was really just very limited. 30 months passes by. There's all kinds of things going on in immunotherapy and longevity. So then as we start investigating, it was like, well, how do I know I have healthy, viable immune cells? What kind of test is there other than you doing this whole big bioanalysis? And we started going down the path of genetics and looking at genetic sequencing, more importantly, epigenetics, methylation. And that opened up a whole new world. And obviously, as you know, you start going down rabbit holes and the universe kind of guides and directs you really where you need to be to come up with a total solution. So that's how genetic lifespan started. And we created this 3-pillar concept. AgeCode, which is what we're here to talk about today, something called Live and Gene, which is our precision nutraceuticals that actually help move those dials that we're going to find in AgeCode. And lastly, to bank your immune system with our product Immune for you to use for future gene and cell therapy. So the product today that we're excited about is AgeCode. And I think you got your box today, so it'll be exciting for you to actually do the test. So what we did was we took a look at everything that was out there, and it's very fractured, as you know, there's a lot of people doing a lot of different things, and first off, you need to know what to ask for. And what was interesting, I remember you and I were at a biohacking event in San Diego, and you actually hooked me up to this device on your computer, and you said, hey man, let's check out your biological age. We know your chronological age is. And, it was this really cool thing. And you start getting these insights. And so I remembered that, and I thought, what if we can do this with some real hard science, because some people still look at that, even though it's scientific, it's hard for the mind to grasp. How are you measuring that?
Right.
On a genetic level, you can. So we started looking down that path and found there's all these fractured tests, a lot of confusion online, and said, let's slow down and let's create something nobody else has. So let's take the maximum in genetics and SNPs that have been identified and validated through science, and let's actually look at all of that. And then from a functional medicine standpoint, look at making recommendations. So it's all about preventative. It's all about integrative, regenerative medicine. And so we can guide it to that direction of practitioners. So if you look online today, you'll see we can look at this genetic code. We look at 5 of them from a cheek swab for $600. You can do one for $499. This group does 10 for $11.99. So you have all these different pieces. So we said, listen, let's do first blood, because wet blood is going to give you the most information. Why? Passes through every cell of the body. Secondly, let's look at everything available in science genetically. So what's hard-coded predisposition? And let's look at what's all included epigenetically, which, as you know, it's part of what you teach in BrainTap, that 75% of your DNA expression is based on epigenetics. You do have control over all of that. If you start thinking properly, you start, reducing that stress and eating differently and all these different factors. So we created this test, 10 different tests within it, all based on genetics, 1 sample of blood that goes to our lab in Houston, Texas, where it's all sequenced. And then we get all these genetic codes and SNPs. So 725,000 SNPs we're looking at, or genomes. Then we're looking at over 225,000 what's called methylation CPG sites. And that's just a term used in the methylation world. Now, another confusion, you'll see these DNA swabs in your mouth and say, oh, we're doing a methylation test. You only do it once in your life. That's not true methylation. Methylation actually changes based on epigenetics. It's your predisposition that will never change. Whether those cells express or not has a lot to do with thoughts, conscious and subconscious, your world, and diet, exercise, smoking, drugs, where you live, stress level. And so we're looking at all of those. From that, our partner, who's experts in this world of DNA and DNA sequencing, have ties to these algorithms that were developed by universities, by major top universities. Normally, you don't get access to those things. When universities develop something, it's closed to their ecosystem. So we have access. So here's what we do. From that little bit of blood, which you're going to do yourself today, and send that back. We actually are going to look at which your chronological, we know chronological, which your metabolic or biological age, which is something your device does. So we're going to identify that. We're going to look at average age of organ systems, and then we're going to look at your pace of aging. pace of aging is critical because we want to know, are you aging 1 year to 1 year or 2 years to 1 year, or maybe 0.8 years to 1 year, which is obviously what you want. Now there's no such thing as reverse aging, but can we slow down the aging process? And that's really what we're talking about. The other thing is, as a company, our goal is not to have you live to 250 years old. Our goal is really about quality of life and health span. However long you're going to be on this planet, we want you to have the highest quality of life possible, which is now termed health span in the world of marketing. So it's all about health span at this point. So now we look at your age of organ systems, over 11 of the organ systems, from heart, brain, immune, skeletal, and it identifies all of these. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at probability factor for heart disease, for mental health, for cancers, and again, it's not a medical claim on it. It's a probability by running all this data. And we're backed into an AI partner that has trillions of data points. So it's going to come back and say, based on your epigenetics that we've calculated here, and based on the set that all this data was run in, someone at your biological age, you have a 60% greater factor or 40% less factor to get this potential heart disease or cancer, so it's giving you probabilities. And again, all that is changeable based on life choices. And then we also go down to the next phase where it's looking at how your organ systems are aging. Well, let's say you're a 33-year-old male, and let's say your biological age is also 33. So you're doing okay. It's a 1-to-1. Maybe your pace of aging is 0.97. Okay. So you're doing pretty good for yourself, but you're a young guy. You haven't beat up yourself all that much yet. But now you start looking at age of organ systems and you see, oh, my heart's here. My immune system's here. Inflammation's here. But my kidneys are 40. They're aging much faster. That's telling you, hey, something's going on with your kidneys. It doesn't mean you have a kidney problem. It doesn't mean we're claiming a disease. It's showing us something's going on. Your kidneys are aging faster. Now you can go back and, as you know, you can go see your practitioner, and there's all kinds of other tests they might be able to run to kind of drill down and see, is there something going on? So again, it's early detection. Then from there, we're going to go into full methylation. We will look at micronutrients and epigenetics. So another misunderstanding, you go for a blood serum test. That's what's in your blood right now, right? So what do? They tell you to fast. Well, most people, when they're going for physicals, 2 or 3 days before, they go on this perfect diet. There's no alcohol. There's no, they try and minimize sugar and all these things. And what happens? You go and the doctor says, wow, your blood serums look pretty good. Your nutrient levels are pretty good. In methylation, it doesn't matter what you did yesterday or a week ago or even a month ago. It's what it is. So we're actually looking not what's in the blood, but what your cells are actually using. So it's going to give all those factors. On top of it, let's say you're high. From a functional medicine standpoint, it's actually going to tell you the things you need to be doing. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's learn to breathe. Maybe it's yoga. Again, it plays a lot into BrainTap. On the other end, let's say it's too low. Your micronutrients are too low. We're actually going to give, again, from a functional medicine standpoint, what could you be eating better? It's going to give meat eater options, like if you eat meat, and it's going to give vegetarian option. So we're looking at both, and then it's going to look at all the different things, nutrients you might need. And by the way, through our entire report, it also gives recommendations based on our precision nutraceuticals. There's a half a dozen of them, which ones will best move those needles to. And then the idea is you test, 6 months later, retest, and see those needles moving. I slow down the pace of aging, reduce the age of organ system, reduce probability factors for disease state. Now, what we know doesn't change is genetic predisposition. That's always going to be there. If you have that MTHFR gene, it's not going away. It's there. The difference is we're tying it now to exercise, food sensitivities, obesity. So if you have those genes, your predisposition to obesity or predisposed to obesity, we're giving you recommendations to say if you don't want to be there, because it's going to be easier for you to get to that place than someone who doesn't have those genes active. So again, entire blueprint of your body. Nobody in the world right now is doing this at the level we are. And then to be able to read it is another thing, and then to make recommendations. So we've really created something very, very unique. Last piece is a blood test. People always say, I hate needles. When you got to go get blood, that becomes like a whole panic session. First off, no phlebotomist needed. Secondly, it's not a finger prick. Finger pricks actually, if you know any diabetics, they're going to tell you how much it hurts every time they got to prick their finger. It is not comfortable. Right. This is not that either. This is a little device that goes on your forearm. It's the simplest thing you've ever experienced. I used to tell people it felt like a mosquito bite, and they said we don't feel anything. So it's a bit evasive because it does take blood, but it's probably got to be the simplest thing you've ever done. So you do it right from home. You put it back in the return box and it sends off to the lab. And within 15 days or so, the sequencing is done. You get access to a back office portal where you can actually look at your results or print out a PDF to get off to your healthcare practitioner. So that was a mouthful, but it's a lot of information and it's a very unique system.
It's great. So let's break it down. First of all, I want to make sure everyone's heard me say it before. We don't have a healthcare system out there in the world. We have a sick care system. So if you want to, that's like the car accident happened, you call in CSI and you find out, why did that car accident happen? What we want to know is, hey, are you on the road to the car accident? Why don't you avoid that road? And you don't have to, worry about the accident because you've prepared yourself, or you at least know that that's coming. If you're going to keep going on the same route, these are the predictable odds. So it's a lot different. And I know his name is, I think it's Brian Johnson down in San Diego. He's spending millions of dollars. He's a tech millionaire, and he's spending millions of dollars trying to track all of his gene sequences and all this methylation and all of this. He's spending, literally he's getting all this publicity because he's spending, I guess he's spent like $4 million on his own testing.
Exactly. And if you look at his quality of life, he's white. He doesn't go in the sun. He has no quality of life, but he thinks he's going to live till whatever.
Yeah, that's what I told somebody. I said, why would I want to live to be 150 or 200 years old if I can't go outside and enjoy life? And, I was at an event once, and I was supposed to speak at an earlier time, but he had to move his time because his AI told him that he had to be to bed by 7:30. And I'm going, are you kidding me? Well, I'm not going to let some AI tell me to go to bed. You need to get good sleep. I understand that, but he's taking it all the way. So you can go to the almost insane route and I guess prove a point, which I guess you can. But he also says you should kill your mind, which I think is a pretty stupid thing to say. But of course, I'm in the mind business, so that's okay. But the one thing is that if you don't know. There are a lot of people that drive their car and they put, the idiot light comes on and says, hey, you need this done or that done, and they just pretend it doesn't happen. But in our bodies, we don't have those lights. We don't have those signals to tell us, hey, like you're saying, maybe it's the kidneys, maybe it's the heart, maybe it's your adrenal glands, maybe something's going on. You don't know what those are. You might be eating a food that you think is healthy, but you might have a food sensitivity to it. You might be taking supplements that you think are good, but they're innate. They don't work for you. So one thing is, knowledge is power when it's applied, right? So you're going to get this knowledge, and then you can apply it either yourself, which is pretty powerful because right now last I read, there were 300,000 medical doctors leaving that profession because they're being told the insurance company is now dictating what they can treat and what they can't treat, what they can say and can't say. And they can't really treat the patients because they have to work under these guidelines, and it's all done based on a pharmaceutical model. When, this is based on reality, what's going on with your body. The science is here now that we can actually figured these things out, and it's just going to get better from here. I know that, as more people do it, and as we get the help of all these machine learnings and things like that, like you're talking about, and using these data points and figuring things out. So where do you think, when people are looking into this, what are you thinking is the most high value for people, or the top three things people would want to do AgeCode for?
Well, I mean, obviously, it's preventative. I mean, there's people like you and I, although we're now in a different part of our life than most,
Right.
but younger people are realizing, hey, we got to check things out. There's ways to get prevention. So the reality is, it's going to be all over the board. Meaning, someone who is now sick is going to say, "Oh my God, what could I do?" Because this traditional route's not working. We know we're in the disease management business in our healthcare. This is
Right.
not about healing anything.
Right.
And people are waking up to that. And thanks to our new head in the FDA, and who's running, Robert Kennedy is great, and he's real open-minded. He's like, there's alternatives. Let's look at it. So I think what's going to happen, people who are sick or just been diagnosed, which is kind of late, right? You waited way too long. The other end is going to be people in that 25, 30, 35-year-old that are waking up and saying, hey, I really need to know what's going on. And there's a lot more information now on 3 or 4 genomes. Anytime now, anyone who listens to this, if you listen to it on your phone, you're going to start seeing ads pop up. We understand how all that works. You're going to start seeing all these companies who will look at 1 genetic code or 3 genetic codes or 5 genetic codes. So all that is there. We're looking at all of them and giving you results. So people will start seeing that. So it's going to be that. And then it's going to be individuals who are concerned about, geez, my parents passed away from this. I wonder if I've inherited that gene. So you're going to get that market as well. Probably the biggest, though, is the ones going to regenerative and integrative doctors. The people that love brain tap are the same people that are going to love this. They just know there's some cool things out there, great technology, science. How can I find things? Because unfortunately, through standard blood serum tests and through MRIs and things like that, disease states are normally found in end of second, beginning of third stage. They don't find it at first stage. There's no technology yet to do that. We're looking at things pre-first stage. Keep doing what you're doing, and here's most likely where you're going to end up. So it's a great way for people to take a quick check. And by the way, we talked about all these different costs. If you were to do everything we're doing, even if you could figure it out and know everywhere to go, you're talking about $4,000 to $5,000. And then you need to be able to read the report, which is a whole nother challenge for most people. We're talking about $1,499. That includes the blood draw, everything right to your home. There's no hidden costs, and it's a done deal. The only extra, if someone wants to buy it, we also do what's called a PGX or pharmacogenomics test. If you're on prescription drugs, it will tell you all the negative interaction because of your genetics and those prescription drugs. That report we release directly to your healthcare practitioner. They're the ones that put you on prescriptions. They need to know that information so they could alter it. But we're giving you everything from A to Z. And I think people are waking up and saying, I need to take back control. Because I tell people all the time, I don't want your power. When they come to my clinic, don't give me your power. Take it back. I want you to own it and take responsibility. You created everything you have, which means you have the power to change everything you have in most cases. But we don't know what we don't know. Right. So let's go ahead and do the test. Let's get a blueprint, and then let's go ahead and create our treatment protocols.
Right. So when people think about, I'm going to get a little bit into more quantum physics, I guess, when people think about it, since we have a quantum physicist here with us. When you think about, they say that our gene expression actually can go back 7 generations, which I thought was fascinating. Our science is saying that. And the Hopi Indians said that 7 generations forwards and backwards. So it's kind of crazy what they're thinking, that this DNA that goes through our body as it wraps around us, 80 billion miles of it, and it's broadcasting codes to our body, and those codes can now be read. So it's not, this science is becoming, it's not science fiction anymore. It's not even metaphysics anymore. It's metaphysics, but so is an X-ray. I tell people, I go, you use your cell phone? I go, that's quantum physics. You're watching this on a computer, that's quantum physics, because what are they doing? They're breaking down little particles of information, sending it across the airways. Somehow it's getting into our computer. Our computer's then reading those codes and broadcasting onto the screen. So now what we're finding is that our body is a series of codes. We know that it happens. We talk about it on this podcast all the time, that through something called the epigenetic system, the biophotic system, and then it interacts with the epigenetics.
Yes.
I read that 99% of our genes express differently every 40 seconds, or they can.
They can.
Yeah, so they're basically but there's 1%, of course, we can't change. I can't change my hairline, even though I've tried many times, things like that. But and you can't really change your eye color and things of that nature, or your skin tone and those kind of things. Those are kind of fixed things, but there's a lot we can change. And once you know what they are, like Jeff is saying here, that we can look at those, maybe look 6 months in the future and say, hey, I made these changes. And this is what, back in the 80s, I didn't know I was doing biohacking, that when we created the first light and sound machine, we just thought we were helping people relax and get rid of pain. That's why we were doing it at the time.
Sure. And it was the end result. That's all you were looking at, was the end result.
Right. And we were looking at skin temperature, respiration, heart rate, those kind of things, biological things that we could do. So now they're going full circle and saying, hey, now through your biology, we can now figure out all these things that are happening, because we're not just a biological system. We're an electrical system. We're an information system. And like you said, our thoughts, I like Bruce Lipton. We used to bring him out all the time to Quantum University, and people like that. And he said that 95% of what controls our physical reality is actually our subconscious. That's all being done behind the scenes. I mean, a lot of people out there trying to change their conscious mind. And so this gives us kind of a peek behind the curtain. To see what is that system doing? What codes were we given at birth? Because we got mom and dads, we got their mom and dads, all the way back. However far, I think they'll go back. I mean, they say that light, because we're made of light, they say that we could store all the information in the known universe in one photon. So, and we're made up of, billions and billions and billions of trillions of protons, and neutrons and all these things spinning around. So where do you see this science going?
Well, listen, years ago, like I was talking about energy, and people thought I was crazy. They were like, what are you talking about here? Like energy from electricity? And I said, no, and everything is energy. I mean, we are a multidimensional being of energy. And I always looked at as energy first. And what's that state of organization of that energy field? Because that then manifests physically. So if you're in a state of disorganization, which we all are in some, that manifests physically. So you're either going to be completely out, which means you have dis-ease states or symptoms created from that disorganization. But we also know that we're autopoietic, our energy self-adjusting. It's always trying to go back to center, right? That's homeostasis, or balance with a capital B. So now when I look at this, and I believe that information, Dr. Porter, is not 7 years either way. I believe it's unlimited. From the beginning of time when your soul entered this place, and to when your soul will ultimately leave this place. And I know that gets into some religious esoteric, do you believe in past life, future life, whatever it might be. It's much bigger than we could all possibly imagine. And there's this that's this whole quantum physics and quantum entanglement. And even through the phone right now, your thoughts, my thoughts are going back and forth. Our emotions are we're interconnected, even to help us go to the next question or how we're going to talk. That's just how it works. It's are you in tune to it or not? And being in tune to it allows, because energy moves at I think faster than the speed of light. I don't even think science hasn't really predicted yet we don't have anything to measure it with yet. So we don't know every time science evolves. So I think it's instantaneous. And I used to tell people all the time, I said, you need to change your thoughts. And they say, well, how long will that take? It's like a radio station. You don't like 101.1, put it to 104.5. It's instant. It's done. Everything's going back up to the universe now at that new frequency. A lot of what you do in brain tap, which I love about your technology and what you're doing, but same works with the cell. We were doing dark field microscope, doing live blood
We have that
analysis.
here. We have that here in our
Yeah.
lab too. Yeah.
Yeah. And we would freak out people. And this was years ago. We do the blood, we put it on, and I would say, talk to your cells, send it love. And they're watching, and the cells are moving really fast. And they're like, am I doing that? And I said, well, tell them to slow down. And they'd be sending, and they'd slow down. We're interconnected. Even though those cells left your body, they're still connected to you energetically. So if you think about all those things, and even if you can't wrap your mind around it's bigger than we could ever possibly imagine getting a snapshot of what your thoughts and activities are right this second. And you got the power to change it. That changes everybody's trajectory to what you could be doing in your life. And it's all about you achieving your highest potential. I've always been about that. This now allows you to do that with the support of technology like yours and dealing with meditation and all the other awesome things we could be doing in our life.
Right. Well, Clive Baxter actually proved that he freaked people out because he took a tree, hooked up the electroencephalograph to it, and took a branch into the lab. And when they tortured the branch in the lab, the tree in the forest was registering it.
Responded.
Yes. And they also did a test that's available out there. Tell two stories. And then they basically took and they separated two electrons and they put them in different places. When they moved one, the other one moved exactly the
Quantum
same
entanglement.
Yes.
It's quantum entanglement. It's all connected.
And then one thing that blew my mind, because this was a few years back, but I was looking up, what does our science say about the biofield? This field of energy that surrounds us. Well, I came to find out that on the NIH's website, our NIH in America has in 1994, they have a whole thing about the biosphere and how all illness starts in the field.
That I agree.
But what they're doing is they're working downstream, they're working in the chemical system and then trying to get it to brute force backwards and make the change. And that's why we're not seeing the results we are.
Exactly.
It's all the interaction. Most people don't understand when they take a medicine, it's not the medicine that does it. It's the reaction to the medicine.
Exactly. It either blocks a process or pushes a process where we weren't designed to work that way. We can do it ourselves, create the right environment, let it happen.
Right. So if you want to learn more about AgeCode, we're going to have the links down below. You can go to the link, check it out. I'm going to get my test done. If this podcast hasn't aired before my test comes back, then we'll add it up there later. But I'll put some of the pictures of my results up there so people can see it. Unless it says awesome. I'm 2,000 years old or something.
Well, that's okay. Your intelligence is multidimensional, so you may be much older than that.
Yeah. So, but I think that just fascinates me that they can do all of this now. I mean, a lot of people are used to going and getting their blood test, like you said. That's only 27% of their blood anyway. Exactly. The rest is in their capillaries. And that's where the problems reside, really. And that's why most people I say, are you taking niacin, B3 to clear out the capillaries? That's when you get that niacin flush. I said, because that's where the problem is. They check your blood and they go, you're fine. No, you're not. That's why people are having heart attacks or brain hemorrhages and things like that, because the pressure's there. But if you want to find out physiologically what's happening, this is a test that they finally have that we can get. We don't have to go to our practitioners for it. Your medical doctor will probably say, "Oh, that's just hooey," because it's not it's not something that the big pharma's pumping out there. So just know that the only health care you have is to take care of your health. You can't buy a policy to keep you well. You can buy a policy that can help you when you get sick, which I'm glad I have if I get in a car accident or break my leg or something like that. But you can't buy health. You have to perform it. You have to know what to work on, and you could be doing everything right in your belief system.
That you think you're doing right.
Yeah, you think
Correct.
you're doing everything right, but you might be spending way too much time. Like they say, there's that 80-20 rule that they say that most people spend 80% of their time on things that aren't going to work when they could spend 20% of their time on the things that would work and get 80% of the
Yep.
result. So, this is one of those
Exactly.
things when once you see the numbers, you can make the changes. And so BrainTap Nation out there, once you watch this video, please like and share this with anyone who's been interested in knowing this isn't about finding out who your ancestors were. This is about finding out
Correct.
who you were, who you are, who you could possibly be, because your DNA houses the infinite potential of your future as well as your past, whatever happened to you in the past. So we can start to get a glimpse into that by getting these tests done. Then you can start taking action. And I'd love to hear back from anyone who's taking it, what you found out, especially as we have you back on, in the future as we evolve this process and get people using it and get some feedback and just see how we can use it. And it's another thing too that you can see when you're using technologies like BrainTap and you're using light therapy or you're doing cold plunges or you're doing all these things that they call health hacks or biohacks. Are they really worth your time? Are they worth your effort?
Exactly. Are they helping you or not? Yeah. I mean, people always say, how do we know it's working? As an engineer, I'm always thinking, how do you know it's not hurting you? We all think we're helping ourselves. So, but I always love telling people, death is inevitable, although aging is optional.
Right.
We have that choice. It's in our control. Just take control of it.
Yeah. Well, my wife will tell you I'd never grown up yet. So
Well,
what do
that's
they
a
say?
whole nother discussion.
The
though.
older the
That's a
boys,
whole nother.
the more expensive the toys.
That's it.
So, when
Yes.
you think about what's going on. So before we wrap up this podcast, what if I forgot to ask you about this, or what do you want to reinforce about AgeCode?
It's simple. It's unique. Price is amazing based on what you're getting. It doesn't require any going to phlebotomists or doing anything that's invasive. And you're really going to get some good foundational information. But what's important is you got to take action on it. And just like anything you would do. So, there is a link, obviously, that you're going to submit. You can go there. You can watch some really, really great videos on how it works. You order it right there and it comes right to your home. So it's not a complicated process. And, we'd love to be part of helping you with your journey on at least knowing what to do next. And whether you do it or not, that's still your choice.
Right. Yeah. So it's really important we know where we're going, because if we don't have a map in this day and age, I couldn't imagine doing a trip anymore without my GPS. It used to be we'd have to go by the maps, and if you didn't get the right map, you were totally lost. So now we're getting more or less a GPS for our physiological system and biological system and all of those things. So, but I want to just caution everyone, because it's never too early to start knowing. I have a friend that actually my wife had to go with them. He's if you talked to him 6 months ago, he was fine. Now he's off the rails and he's just going backwards so quickly they don't even know how long he's going to last because his brain's going. He was found in the kitchen making Italian food with the oven on, but it didn't light up and the house was filled with gas. So, you don't want to get that far. It's never too early. And one thing we know about brain health is you start now, because the onset of what they call type 3 diabetes now is Alzheimer's. And, with what's going on in the stress levels people are under and the foods we've been consuming, the EMF we're under, all of these things that are happening in our environment, we need to know what we need to know so we can take preventative measures and protect ourselves and be as healthy as possible. And like you said, it's healthspan. And we always say it's not more years to your life, it's more life to your years. You want to be, I'm 64, so I want to still get out there on the boat with my grandkids and at least act like I'm a teenager again. And I might pay for it tomorrow, but I'm going to still get out there and do it, and I can. And but I couldn't imagine my grandparents doing that. I mean, when my grandfather was this age, one grandfather didn't even live this long, and the other one, he was sitting around waiting to retire and expire. In this day and age, there's no reason to let a diagnosis sneak up on you. You should know what's going on. Now, it still could happen, obviously, because we can't prevent anything. But it's one thing to not know it, get blindsided. And it's not to put a lot of fear in your life, but just to know, hey, I'm taking back power. Because once you have that knowledge, you have the power to change it, transform it, start making little changes, and watch what happens to your body and your mind in your life. Just bringing you more joy, because there's power in knowing. The uncertainty is a really fearful thing. So, Jeffrey, I'm glad you got on with me today talking about this.
Thank you.
I'm going to take the test. We're going to share that information out with the listeners here. I want you to like and share this podcast. Get it out to everyone you know, because right now, like we said, there's no healthcare system. We have a sick care system. And
Unfortunately,
if they want to start to take back control of their life, this is one of the best steps that I found. That's why I said, when you told me about it, I said, I need to get you on the Brain Fitness Podcast to share this with people, because brain health is so important right now. I mean, people at 30 years old are getting Alzheimer's.
It's sad. It's really sad where we are.
And so we need to know those things and start making those lifestyle changes that we can make, whether it's your environment that needs to change, like you said, whether it's your dealing with stress that needs to change, whether it's your food that needs to change, your supplement regimen needs to change. All these things, all these factors, it can be overwhelming. But if you have a plan, because you have a roadmap, now you can start taking action. So thanks again for being on the podcast.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure, and I love your product. We've had a lot of fun together, and I love your tribe, all like-minded people. I know many of them. So congrats on the success and what BrainTap is doing as well.
Yeah, we're out to better a billion brains. So if you've been listening this long, it's your brain we're talking to. So that means that you're interested. So go to the links below. Check out those videos that Jeffrey was talking about. See if it's something that you want to do. I'm going to encourage you to do it, because knowledge is power when applied. So once you get that knowledge in your hand, you can take it to your healthcare professional. If you're a healthcare professional now, you might want to reach out to Jeffrey himself and see how you can share this with your community, because we need to get this out to people. This is something that, like I said, there's a person down there in San Diego that's spending millions of dollars trying to get all these biomarkers and doing crazy things and testing himself and doing all these things. I don't think you have to go that far, but no. It's one thing to know where you're going and to see what's happening within yourself. So again, this has been Brain Fitness Podcast. We're bringing you cutting edge technology to help you in your wellness journey, to keep your brain fit, your body sound, and your life prosperous. So have a good day. If you're listening to this during the day, and wherever you're at in the world, please share this, and look forward to seeing you on the next Brain Fitness Podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on our mission to better a billion brains. Follow at Dr. Patrick Porter on social media for updates, and remember to practice brain fitness every day.